What's poppin', my creatures and or commandos? It is me, MT, and welcome back to the Heavy Spoiler Show, y'all. This is about to be a breakdown for episode 6 of Creature Commandos, so let's just go ahead and dive into this thing. Episode 6 of Creature Commandos is titled Prietel Skelet, which means skeleton friend in Russian, and it's an episode centered around the origins of our skeleton homie, Dr. Phosphorus, PhD. But in this case, PhD stands for Pretty Hot Dude, or Person Hiding in Dumpster, which is exactly where we find Phosphorus at the beginning of this episode as he continues running for the Royal Knights of Pokolistan. He almost gets caught while hiding in an alley, but this Pokolistan knight somehow does not notice the giant glowing source of green just chilling right behind this corner. Like, nah man, turn in your badge buddy, you done. But anyways, Dr. Phosphorus eventually makes his way into a nearby home after burning the doorknob clean off, forcing the man of the house to have to go to Pokolistan Home Depot the next day. And looking through this random family's photographs, Dr. Phosphorus begins to think back to his old life as the brilliant scientist and family man, Alexander Sartorius. The show first flashes back to when Alex is playing outside his home with his kid, where the audience can immediately see how much Alex was modeled after his voice actor, Alan Tudyk. The Alexander Sartorius introduced in the pages of 1977's Detective Comics 469 originally had all black hair, but it seems like blonde was the way for this DCU Alex. And blonde hair would apparently be fitting because this dude was stupid as hell, man, making deals with sketchy Gotham gangsters like Rupert Thorne in order to get scientific funding. Also, totally kidding about that blonde joke, by the way. Blonde people can also do the think good too. But anyways, because both he and his wife Parvin both lost parents to cancer, Alex was apparently working on a game-changing nuclear fusion treatment that would eliminate all cancer cells within a patient forever. And while this is nice and all, Alex's wife Parvin is bugging out because she does not want her husband giving Thorne the results of his successful nuclear experiments, when she knew damn well that Thorne was going to give those scientific results to the fascist dictatorship of Bialya, a fictional country near the countries of Saudi Arabia and Iran, introduced into DC Comics continuity in 1987's Justice League number 2. At first in the comics, the country was ruled by a complete ass of a colonel named Ruman Harjavti, who used his military influence along with some superpowered individuals to morph Bialya into a nation where crooks and criminals prospered while the people remained poor. This dumbass colonel would eventually ally himself with a woman named Queen Bee, who would betray him by having his ass assassinated so she could take over the country and make it into a paradise even more beautiful than the country of Monaco, apparently. But she did this by secretly being a supervillain behind the scenes. You know, like this one time in 1988's Captain Atom Annual number 2, when she created a device that made everyone living or visiting the nation of Bialya physically addicted to living there, as that machine would straight up manipulate the endomorphins in the brain which control pain and stress. So whenever you left the country, you would instantly feel incredibly more stressed out, prompting you to want to visit again or maybe even stay permanently, which of course in turn helps the Bialyan economy. And even though Queen Bee has gotten into various altercations with the Justice League over the years, her political influence on the world stage made it super hard for any sort of consequences from the United Nations to happen. But anyways, because Parvin also grew up in an oppressive country like Bialya, she desperately tries to get Alex to stop working with Rupert Thorne. But seeing that Alex won't relent, the two eventually come to a compromise that would have Alex give Rupert Thorne bogus results. Bogus results that Thorne would try to give to Bialya that would make the Bialyans pissed off as hell. So, in retaliation, Rupert Thorne would have Alex's wife and child murdered while forcefully making Alex cover the crime scene with his bloody fingerprints. And by the way, the villainous Rupert Thorne is a corrupt and influential city councilor from Gotham City introduced alongside Dr. Phosphorus in Detective Comics 469 and is voice acted brilliantly by Benjamin Byron Davis, who worked with James Gunn previously on movies like 2016's The Belko Experiment and 2023's Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, where he played the Orgo Corp guard that fell in love with Drax, courtesy of Mantis. But if you're a gamer, then you'll likely know him best as the voice of Dutch from Red Dead Redemption 2. And just like we see in this episode, Rupert Thorne would also be instrumental in the origins of Dr. Phosphorus in the comics, because after both he and Alex Sartorius would agree to work together to build a power plant in Gotham City, Thorne would be pressured by an angry Gotham City to instead build a power plant 3 miles away from the city in the Atlantic Ocean. However, because the project was so unpopular, Thorne could not get the proper funding to run such a power plant, which would cause a reactor to explode while Sartorius was checking it out. And in an attempt to evade the blast, Alex would jump behind some nearby bags of sand. However, the nuclear explosion would cause the sand to bond to Alex's skin and shoot up one element in the periodic table to become an eternally burning phosphorus, causing Alex to vow revenge against Gotham for being responsible for his radical transformation. However, in the DCU, it seems like Rupert Thorne is a lot more directly responsible for Alex's condition, as he and his gang would shove Alex into his own nuclear machine, hoping to cook him alive with his own work. And I got major Kick-Ass 1 vibes from that moment, as it reminded me of the scene from the 2010 film when Frank D'Amico's men would cook one of their guys alive in an industrial lumber microwave. I actually did a whole breakdown on Kick-Ass 1, by the way, that you can check out here on Heavy Spoilers. Subscribe. But unlike that guy in Kick-Ass 1 who exploded in that microwave, Alex would of course emerge from Sartorius Labs alive and completely changed into a living phosphorus doctor of some kind. I don't know if he can make a name from that, who knows? With his mutation radically altering his mind into embracing his more violent urges, like his urge for revenge against Rupert Thorne and any unfortunate mother dang who works for him. Like this guard over here getting excited over a lewd magazine called Meta Sleaze, which features nearly nude women dressed up as popular comic book superheroes and metahumans. The back cover of this magazine has a woman dressed up like what appears to be the Green Lantern villain Star Sapphire, who made her first appearance in All Flash number 32 from 1948. While the front page features a woman made of ice or crystals, a possible nod to the villain Icicle, who was a villain for the original Green Lantern Alan Scott that made his first appearance in 1947's All-American Comics number 90. And inside the actual magazine, the woman on the left appears to be a nod to the hero, the Green Hornet, originally created for the Green Hornet radio program in 1936. But Green Hornet is not a DC Comics hero though, which is kind of weird. But he is still very much an influential hero in fictional crime-fighting history. At first, I kind of thought this woman was trying to be the Batman villain the Riddler, but Riddler usually wears a purple tie instead of a green one, so it's probably not him. However, sometimes Riddler do be wearing green ties though, so I don't know. It's one of those two. But the woman on the page on the right appears to be a nod to the DC Comics hero Red Devil, formerly known as Kid Devil, a character who first appeared in 1984's Firestorm number 24. And after murdering the Thorne family, Alex goes after his men as well, even following one of them to the supermarket to set their bones to crispy right after they picked up a cereal called Crispy Bones Cereal, a parody of the forgotten Dino Pebbles Flintstone-themed cereal that was on the shelves from 1990 to 1993. The bony dinosaur on the front of the box also bears a strong resemblance to the Mario character Dry Bones as well. And after this, Dr. Phosphorus decides to take over Rupert Thorne's entire gang, before bringing his new gang to the Iceberg Lounge for a night of intimidating dancing while dressed like a pimp named Slickback from the Boondocks, with the Iceberg Lounge of course famously belonging to the Batman villain the Penguin ever since it first appeared in 1995's Detective Comics 683. But after running around Gotham committing various crimes and terrorizing the city, Dr. Phosphorus' reign as a gang leader would come to an end when he is visited at home by an extremely swole Batman, the first alive appearance of the Dark Knight in the DCU after we first saw him dead in Waller's vision back in episode 4. But while Batman's costume is purposely darkened by DC Studios due to them not likely deciding on a final design for their new Batman yet, it appears that DC Studios will clearly be looking for an extremely athletically fit and muscled up man for the role to fit this animated physique. Back in the present, the Doctor is discovered by a little girl who says that she's hungry. So the Doctor sits and eats with her in a moment that reminded me a lot of Matt Smith's first episode of Doctor Who, when he would have a surprise late night meal with a young Amy Pond. But anyways, both Phosphorus and the little girl would harmlessly play outside together until they're finally discovered by the girl's parents, who graciously direct the Doctor to the direction of the castle. But shifting things on over to a Nina and the Bride on the run, the two eventually find themselves inside of the local Can-Can brothel, run by a woman known only as Madam, played by the legendary Shohreh Aghdashloo. And after convincing the ladies there to help them, Nina then suggests that they all play the Scattergories party game, which is a game that was released by Milton Bradley in 1988. But soon the brothel would be visited by two asshole meta-human brothers who both possess bioelectric powers. And when one of them hurts one of the workers, we finally see Nina Mazursky leap into action for the first time in the series to defend her, once again showing how Nina is a deeply caring person. But when the two douchebags threaten to kill everybody in the building, the bride instantly and effortlessly kills them first, with the bride even ripping the heart out of the more abusive brother before squeezing it. Yet another reference to the Mortal Kombat video games in this series, as the character Kano is famously known for the Heart Ripper fatality in those games. And while all this is happening, Weasel makes his way into a nearby forest where he runs into a pack of wolves. But instead of attacking them, he decides to befriend them in the same way that the kids in Sunny Hill School chose to befriend him in the past, by playing fetch. But even though Weasel would find a home with these wolves in the end, he would still be pulled towards Princess Alana's direction by the image of the blonde little girl that he failed to save all those years ago, as the two of them look somewhat similar. But we of course have to catch up with Rick Flag Sr., who was in a coma after getting f***ed all the way up by a motherfucker named Basil, who also happens to be Mud. And as Rick is being brought into the emergency room, Economos and Waller try to get information on the monster that dropped him off. Listing off types of monsters for the hospital staff, Economos mentions reptiloids like Killer Croc from Suicide Squad, amphibians like Nina Mazursky, simians like Kongorilla or Gorilla Grodd, poltergeists, a possible reference to the enchantress that possessed June Moon in Suicide Squad, and Mite, a reference to the character Bat-Mite, who Economos described in the Peacemaker series as a 2-foot-tall interdimensional imp who stands Batman, because that is exactly what Bat-Mite has been ever since he was introduced in 1959's Detective Comics 267. And before he decided to make his Suicide Squad movie, James Gunn was apparently thinking about writing and directing a Bat-Mite movie instead, which would have probably been incredibly baller and hilarious. But I am glad that we got the Suicide Squad instead, because we also got Peacemaker and Creature Commandos spun off from the Suicide Squad. But anyways, last week I did assume that Amanda Waller had to be behind Isla McPherson's murder, but this seems to not be the case, as Amanda Waller can be seen sitting by Rick's side, hoping that he pulls through long enough to let her know who exactly beat his ass up, because she, like us, has yet to figure out how Clayface's intervention ties into the overall Pokolistan threat. Then the episode of course ends with the remaining 4 members of the Creature Commandos doing a dramatic slow-mo walk towards Princess Alana's castle, with these slow walks being a staple for pretty much every James Gunn superhero team movie, as he's done slow-mo walks in all 3 Guardians films, the Suicide Squad, and Peacemaker. And they do this walk right as Frankenstein arrives in Pokolistan after hijacking a private plane, ready to be reunited with his bride once again. And seeing that next week's episode is the last episode of the season, we could actually end up seeing Frankenstein joining the Creature Commandos by that episode's end, as he actually has led the team before in the DC Comics. But regardless of what James Gunn has planned for us in episode 7, I am incredibly excited to see this finale, man. I've got to know if the Creature Commandos can actually change the future, and if we'll somehow see G.I. Robot return from the grave. Because I gotta be honest, I miss that robot, man. We had a lot in common. We both hate Nazis. Yeah, that's about it. But yeah, that was my breakdown for episode 6 of Creature Commandos. What'd you guys think of the episode? Let us know in the comments section, y'all. And like always, you guys can follow me at Mastertainment on YouTube, Twitter, Blue Sky, Instagram, wherever I am on the internet. But most importantly, follow Heavy Spoilers here on YouTube by hitting that subscribe button, and maybe even consider liking this video if you enjoyed it. But yes, I love you all so much. I hope you guys are doing well in general. I hope everything's going cool in your lives and you guys are staying safe and warm and are having a, just a happy time in general. And I'll catch you guys later. Bye.